And then they did the cha-cha slide again. Again.
Hey guys, I got it. 2 turntables and a microphone.
Is that supposed to be a mid-90s Beck song reference?
This intro's kind of lame.
Maybe we should just go with it.
So Josh, what do you think it takes to make a good DJ?
Yeah, let's just go to the episode.
Yeah, it's a little bit dated.
Don't you want to know what to look for when hiring a DJ? Come on, guys. Guys? If you're planning a wedding and want all the secret tips for a smoother wedding day experience, then stick around as we interview some of the top professionals in the wedding industry. We are Coastline Studios, a fun-loving team of filmmakers who specialize in creating custom wedding films alongside some extremely talented people. Welcome to Let's Talk Weddings. When you're talking about DJs, one of our favorites is Scott Perry from Two Bays DJs, based in northern Michigan. A multi-talented creative, Scott has a vast array of experience in the DJ world and is full of insight when it comes to booking a DJ that is perfect for your event.
Hey Scott, thanks for being here with us today. Happy to have you on an episode.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to join you here.
So when people are looking for a DJ for their wedding or their event, what should they be asking? What are the questions they should be asking? What they should be looking for? Are there different levels of DJ?
There's certainly a level of skill that comes with being able to play the proper music at the right time. In addition to that, I would say that one of the most important things that you want from a DJ is someone who's comfortable in front of a crowd and able to guide a wedding from start to finish.
Okay, you're talking about like MCing, right?
Absolutely. One of the unsung duties of a DJ is kind of to ensure that things go as according to plan as possible. It's oftentimes a DJ's job to make sure that the timeline gets back on track after a certain amount of mishaps or the bridal party that takes longer to use a bathroom than you expected. You never know. For a DJ, in addition to the music, you want to have an MC who works well, but also works well with the other vendors. Because one of the things that I've learned DJing over all the years is that your best friends are the people who may have a camera or the caterer or the wedding planner, however it goes.
I know we always appreciate it when we have a good comradeship with the DJ, because if we have to take a break to eat or something, we don't want the DJ kicking off the first dances while we're away.
Absolutely. You only announce the first dance one time when the photographer still has to change a battery, because they will tell you that you messed up. So of course you want to be able to make sure that dinner is ready when you're sending people to do the first toast and stuff like that. You don't want to have dead air after the toasts are through and you're expecting the service to come through with the salads and it's just not ready. And if you can be aware of those changes that need to happen before they actually get noticed by your guests, you're going to be in a much better place to be happy with your entire evening.
Are there things that you would tell people to look for, or is it hard to spot a bad or a good DJ? Are there advice that you would give?
Sure, absolutely. I think the first thing that I would do in these cases would be ask other vendors what their experience is. They've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of individual DJs, and also they've seen me on my good days and they've seen me on my bad days. So I would suggest ask vendors, ask the banquet staff, whoever you can find, other brides and grooms who have had these experiences with the DJs. That's your best bet.
You should be asking questions to make sure they are an MC, or is that always come together?
More and more, it's tough to distinguish between the two, but I would say there are definitely some professional etiquette that is expected from someone who you're going to pay a lot of money for, to be able to assess when it's appropriate to make a microphone announcement, or if maybe it's just better to go out and ask the 3 cocktail tables on the patio if they'd like to come in individually. Like, there's a big difference between something like that. Oftentimes the timeline gets neglected, but in the grand scheme of things, if you've got a show-stopping sunset outside and everyone's already out there watching it go down, it's better just to let that moment breathe. And you really want a DJ who's got the conviction to make that decision without having to tap a couple on the shoulder and say, what do you think? Like, the sun looks pretty, should we do it? Like, chances are they're already talking to the people they love the most, so let's just have them enjoy that moment for what it's worth.
Right.
So what type of packages would people look for with DJs?
Sure. So when it comes to packaging, the bread and butter, as you can imagine, is a dance floor that goes off after dinner. But we also offer things like ceremony sound and microphones, silent disco headsets perhaps. There's all sorts of things. Photo booths may be something that a DJ company incorporates, but for the most part, you're going to have a base package pricing with an hourly rate tacked on after that. The secret is with a DJ company, you're gonna get more value from them as you add entertainment throughout the evening. Let's get us there in the early afternoon, set up to do the ceremony, set up to do cocktails, set us up to do dinner. It'll be smooth throughout the whole evening, and you're gonna get more value for your dollar because we've already kind of paid for the out the driveway fee at the start.
How much time should a couple expect a DJ to allow to set up?
It really depends on what you're asking for when it comes to how many speaker locations you have and that sort of thing. I try to be 2 hours early to almost every event, but I also like to socialize with the other vendors who are there. I've also set up in 20 minutes when the time comes for it. One thing that I would try to avoid is resetting any speakers after the guests have arrived. People often ask us if we can save a few dollars by having the ceremony sound and speakers set up for the ceremony and then tear that down to reset it in a dining room by a dance floor. And it just makes for a lot of calamity trying to lug through big speakers to a room that's full of people. And you may expect that, oh, we're not opening the banquet hall, the dining room until 6 p.m. Never fails, there's always a handful of people who have tried to set their bags down inside and become in the way if you try to do that. So we try to avoid that at all costs.
So you said that packages are by the hour and that there's a better value if you spread it out over the day, but like, can you unpack that a little bit more?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Unpack the packages. So everyone typically at a wedding has a ceremony. So oftentimes we're outside, you never know what to expect with some wind blowing through or road noise or whatever it may be. So we oftentimes are providing additional speakers, a clip-on microphone for the officiant to wear, perhaps a handheld microphone for someone who may be giving a reading or singing a song, something along those lines. But so that's all a little bit extra a la carte. Sometimes you're at a church, and in those cases, often enough, we're not doing any sound there. When it comes to cocktail hour, for the most part, we're just playing conversation level music. We're not like DJing, so to speak, mixing songs. At that point, we're really trying to keep our finger on the pulse of how things are going for everyone involved. Make sure we speak with the caterer. Make sure we talk to the photographers, and we know when the photographer arrives. That means the bridal party is shortly behind them. As far as other aspects into the packages go, we could talk for a long time about lighting as well, which some people have very basic packages, just a few lights by the DJ. Sometimes people are encompassing the whole room in a theatrical uplighting package, and that's definitely something worth discussing.
Is that a normal thing for you, is to have a lighting package? Is that a normal thing for most DJs?
I think most DJs do have a lighting package to offer. I think each one is very different from the next company. Some people will bring a truss to your wedding and deck it out with lights that are affected by the music but kind of feel a little bit, there's a nickname in the industry, we call them flash and trash, where they just are kind of blinking uncontrollably. Other people have some ways to tie the lights all together so you can have unique chases throughout the dance floor. You can kind of get them flickering like a candlelight or something along those lines. It's worth discussing with your DJ. They're gonna possibly upcharge you if you wanna do a very elegant uplighting package. For us personally, we bring 4 uplights to every single wedding. I think that's pretty safe to assume that most DJs will incorporate some sort of lighting package into your wedding. And then beyond that, it's on each case basis.
Okay.
Are there lights that you would shy people away from using? For us as video people, like those ones that are pin light, like laser points.
Yes,
that,
that's
like,
what I was going to say, actually.
Measles, I don't know what you call them, but are the things that they should be aware of, like this is the name of it. Don't, or request to not bring
There
that.
are certain lights that I would definitely suggest should not be turned on until after the first dance. And those are going to be lights that shine directly onto the dance floor, because there's nothing you can do about a bride who has green spots all over her dress. And everyone's gonna notice, but until it happens, you won't know how to deal with it. But the critical moment is to wait until you open up the dance floor for everybody and then put those lights on.
Are lights suitable for most every wedding or reception?
There's definitely situations where I would recommend not to use a significant uplighting package. For instance, in an environment like this, in a beautiful rustic barn, I really try to shy away from turning it into a nightclub unless that's what you're trying to go for.
Yeah.
So in those cases, a little light goes a long way. But then again, there's also sometimes where you're in a generic banquet hall and you need a lot of light to make it feel like you're not in the same banquet hall you've been to for every work outing you've ever gone to.
Gotcha.
One of the things I love that you do is your live mashups. Not sometimes they're live, sometimes you've really worked hard on it beforehand, but almost always they're live. So that's something that I don't see a lot of DJs do. They just play the music and sometimes they just fade down and fade up the next song. Is that something that, is there a terminology people should ask for? Talk about that aspect of DJing.
It's in the industry, we call it live mixing, and it's one of my favorite parts about the whole job. It seems like sometimes we're a chef working with the same exact ingredients that everybody else has been working with, but if we can make the dish a little bit different, it's gonna have a different feel for you. And so if we can take your favorite song and blend the two to make a unique experience, then it's magic on the dance floor. It's a sweet science that you can't replicate with just playing off of iTunes or something along those lines.
Would that cost extra normally for a DJ? Do you have to find a DJ that specifically does that?
I think you want to find a DJ who does it. When I first started DJing 12 years ago, I was working for another company in East Lansing while I was working in college, and no one was doing the live mixing at the time. But I had seen it done at concerts before, and I knew it was possible. And when I started my own company, I decided that was going to be, every DJ who works for us is going to learn how to live mix. I think a lot of other DJ companies are coming to terms with what that means. It really makes a big difference.
Round and around again we go. Round and around again we go.
There's always banquet halls and places where there's lots of power, but then every now and then you have a tented reception or you're out on a private estate. What are, like, it's a real technical question, but like, is there an amperage or a certain amount of circuit breaker power you need?
I would say that it's not a problem unless you absolutely think it's a problem. Most outdoor circuits are 20 amps. We can go off of a 20 amp circuit, no problem. We've also DJ'd wedding ceremonies at the Point Betsy Lighthouse, which was constructed in 1859. And we did it off of their power. I would never do that again. So as a result, we have some other options for specifically ceremonies for the most part, where it's kind of, a much shorter time period where we can run off of a boat battery, or we have quiet generators. For the most part, you're good just pulling it off of your outdoor circuit if you're having a tent in the background, in your backyard. It's no problem at all. But if you think, well, it might be iffy, the DJ should definitely know what the limitations are, because we've all blown circuits before, and sometimes that makes a good party too. If you're pumping it to the limit and the power goes, you just flip a breaker and you're back. But if we can avoid that, that's better too.
We're going round and round and round again. We're going up.
So is there a benefit to, or is there pros and cons to hiring from a DJ company versus just a single guy that's doing his own thing?
Absolutely, and part of that has to do with the business model of who you're speaking to. There are some very highly qualified DJs who have realized that they can make a living out of just doing their own solo gigs. Okay. And if you're working with one of those DJs, that's fantastic. Those guys are excellent, and ladies are excellent. You may be spending a premium on them to get them to fly to your city or something along those lines. A lot more commonly, I think you see DJ companies who started maybe with one DJ working all the time and realize that they can kind of train people to deliver a similar product. And in those cases, I think you want to be talking to whoever you're speaking with. In those cases, you have a management team that's kind of conglomerating all the information and then delegating to the DJs. You want to be talking to them about how many DJs they have on staff, what they do if somebody calls in sick, when will you know exactly who your DJ is? Because like I mentioned, when you're working with a team of 10 potential DJs who are suitable for your gig, there are also going to be scheduling conflicts that pop up with those DJs, although we wish that we could tell them that they're going to your wedding a year in advance, we can't make them miss everybody's birthday. So that's the kind of thing that you want to know. When will I be talking to my DJ? When will I know exactly who it is? And then from there, you can plan accordingly. And always get a contract.
Is that a thing that's out of touch nowadays, or?
I often have situations where we have a couple call us very late in the planning process who had gone with a DJ who seemed suitable at the start, but then for whatever reason is no longer available with 6 weeks out from your wedding. And at that point, we're kind of have our hands tied with what we have available.
Yeah.
And I see it all too often. Get a contract, make sure that it is signed, read it. That's pretty much it. Once you have a contract, then I feel much safer about those things, but there are definite situations where I get phone calls about couples who kind of are out of luck.
Yeah. Are there any red flags that you would have people look for when they're looking for DJs?
I think one question that you could ask a DJ that will really make them sit up in their seat and realize they're not talking to every other bride and groom who are kind of just waiting for me to tell them what the next question ought to be, is ask them what the bit rate of their music is. The bit rate of music is the equivalent of HD in movies and TV. You can have 4K, you can have 1080, you can have 720, you can go all the way to square TVs with rabbit ear antennas on them. The same thing goes for music.
Okay.
The key number that you're gonna wanna hear when somebody tells you what their bit rate is 256. You want 256 or higher. That means that they've been buying their music off of iTunes or equivalent. If you have something like 128 or 196, anything lower than 256, realistically, that may mean that they're just taking a YouTube video and ripping it off the internet and playing it back. And it just doesn't sound good. Maybe sometimes they have high bitrate songs mixed with low bitrate songs, and when you go from one to the other, the audio jumps really loud. It's just a safe question where if they know their bitrate, if they tell you it's 256 and it's just they've got the answer ready, then you're dealing with a professional. But if not, you may have other questions to ask about to see if you're dealing with someone who really knows what's up.
Gotcha.
Great tip.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Scott, well, thank you for joining us today. We learned a lot about DJs and how to find the right one.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you coming by. Where can people find you if they want to look you up?
You can find us on the interwebs at www.tubasedjs.com. You can also find us on all socials, Tubase DJs. We'd love to hear from you, and really excited to see you on a dance floor soon.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Weddings. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.